Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. In this video, I would like to share a footage with you. This footage took place during a Senate hearing. Senator Toomey here is recognizing that cryptocurrency are a store of value or a medium of exchange. He also mentioned stablecoin in Venezuela during this hearing. In parentheses, regarding stablecoin, you can earn at least 8% interest on your stablecoin. I have in the description down below a link that will take you to Celsius. And if you open an account with Celsius and deposit $400 worth of crypto, Celsius will give you $40 worth of crypto. I will also get $40. Speaking of Venezuela, here is what Senator Toomey says. It confirms that Venezuelans are using Bitcoin as a store of value when the government devalue the currency. I would like to remind you that Venezuela adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. Also, pay attention to the information the two guests are bringing to the table or to this hearing. This hearing opens the hood and shows us the knowledge the politician and powerful people have about cryptocurrency. They see the positive impact that cryptocurrency can bring to the world and even to the cybersecurity space. All right, now, without further ado, here is the video.
Today's hearing provides us an opportunity to learn about the current and potential uses of cryptocurrencies. In short, a cryptocurrency connects one person with another through an open public network, separate from government control or any other intermediaries. And cryptocurrencies are a growing part of our economy. The first cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, was implemented in 2009. And while there are varying definitions of what is considered a cryptocurrency, there are now thousands of them available in many different forms. According to a recent University of Chicago survey, 13% of Americans bought or traded cryptocurrencies of some kind in the past 12 months. That's more than half the total percentage of Americans who invested in stocks during that same period of time. And like other currencies, cryptocurrencies may be useful as a store of value or a medium of exchange. However, it's important to acknowledge up front that a significant impediment to cryptocurrencies, or at least most cryptocurrencies becoming a widely used store of value or medium of exchange, is their price volatility. That problem could potentially be solved by tying a cryptocurrency to other assets, such as a fiat currency like the US dollar, for instance. And that's what stablecoins are meant to do. On the other hand, some cryptocurrencies may prove to be useful as a store of value by serving as alternatives to fiat currencies like the dollar. They may serve as a store of value because, unlike fiat currencies, the government can't come along and print trillions of a cryptocurrency. In this way, cryptocurrencies might complement the role that gold has historically played as a store of value and a hedge against inflation. For example, we've seen recently in Venezuela how people can use Bitcoin to store value when their government devalues their currency. Also, some cryptocurrencies may prove to be useful as a medium of exchange for buying goods and services. With cryptocurrencies, making payments and conducting transactions may become cheaper, easier, and faster for consumers than it is using traditional currencies. Cryptocurrencies can be exchanged without the need for an intermediary, such as a bank, which could virtually reduce transaction costs and fees for consumers to zero. In addition, since a person does not need a bank account to use cryptocurrencies, they could increase access to financial services for many Americans. Beyond these often discussed uses for cryptocurrencies, there are other ways that the distributed ledger technology that underlies crypto can be used. A distributed ledger is a database that shares information across various sites and geographies that's accessible by multiple people. This structure ensures that all these people can access and verify the data, and it dramatically reduces the risk of any one central actor manipulating the data. In my view, the use of distributed ledger technology to have non-intermediated transactions verified in a foolproof way is a very powerful technological innovation. And this innovation already is having an impact on supply chains, financial services, and securing digital identities. I think it has significant potential for verifying the ownership of property, whether it might be automobiles or homes or securities. In the United States, we spend a lot of time and money to verify property ownership. Distributed ledger technology may provide a way to do this faster and at a lower cost. Over time, it's possible that the application of this innovation may become more important than the usefulness of crypto as a currency per se. And we're already seeing it have a real world impact. As we all know, democracy and individual freedom in Hong Kong are under assault from the Chinese Communist Party. That assault has included the forced closure of a pro-democracy newspaper, Apple Daily. But the Chinese government has not been able to erase Apple Daily's important work. That's because Arweave, a cryptocurrency network that enables permanent data storage, was used to permanently store portions of the paper. This technology makes it impossible for the Chinese government to destroy Apple Daily's work, no matter how hard it tries. That's just one example. Today, we'll hear from two expert witnesses about other current and potential uses of cryptocurrencies. Mr. Jerry Brito is Executive Director of Coin Center, a think tank focused on cryptocurrencies and related topics. He will discuss an array of uses for cryptocurrencies and how these technologies could be further developed. Ms. Marta Belcher is chair of the Filecoin Foundation. She helped to develop and launch a cryptocurrency, Filecoin, that provides data storage access on a decentralized file storage network. Now, it's important to note that many people have raised legitimate issues about cryptocurrencies. These include their use in illicit activity and the possible effects on monetary policy and our existing financial infrastructure. I think we need to discuss and understand these issues and address them if we need to. But we shouldn't lose sight of the tremendous potential benefits that distributed ledger technology offers. We should also be mindful that private innovation has enabled most of these developments. Excuse me. We should not suppress the concepts of individual entrepreneurship and empowerment that have made this innovation possible. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today about the ways cryptocurrencies are impacting and can potentially impact our lives, and I hope we'll all listen with open minds.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. The title of this hearing is Cryptocurrencies, What Are They Good For? After a decade since Bitcoin's invention, what do we have to show for it? What justifies all the hype and investment? Is there today any tangible use case that is meaningfully improving people's lives? Those questions bring to mind the early days of another open, permissionless network, the internet. There was real skepticism that despite all the hype over the information superhighway, we still had very little to show for it, leading Paul Krugman to famously predict in 1998 that, quote, the growth of the internet will slow drastically because most people have nothing to say to each other. By 2005 or so, it will become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machines, end quote. The fact that in 1998, there was no Wikipedia or Netflix or Zoom could lead one to believe that there never would be, and that the internet would continue to only be the domain of its earliest adopters, computer enthusiasts, spammers, gamblers, and pornographers. What skeptics missed is that an open and permissionless platform to which anyone could connect and on which anyone could build would allow an explosion of entrepreneurial innovation that would give us applications we could not imagine or predict. Cryptocurrency networks like Bitcoin are open and permissionless networks just the same. And while we may not yet have the Wikipedia or Netflix of cryptocurrency, that does not mean that we never will. And indeed, there are thousands of entrepreneurs around the world developing new applications of cryptocurrency networks, some of which I have no doubt will change the world, even if I can't now predict what they are. But even if we can't predict the future, what are some concrete applications that we can see today? First, there is the base application of Bitcoin, permissionless person-to-person payments. In the US, we take for granted that we can send each other funds effortlessly with our smartphones. But this is not the case everywhere in the world, especially where authoritarian governments block payments to and from dissidents. Just last year, pro-democracy labor activists in Belarus and anti-police violence protesters in Nigeria successfully turned to the Bitcoin network to accept donations because local banks would not bank them. Beyond payments and money, I would point to novel applications of cryptocurrencies, tamper-resistant ledgers. Chinese social media is heavily censored. This has led Chinese activists to post messages onto the Ethereum blockchain where they cannot be taken down. There are many applications of cryptocurrency networks being developed for free speech that cannot be censored by authoritarian governments. Perhaps more relevant to average Americans are the potential applications of cryptocurrency and its tamper-resistant to enable identity solutions for cybersecurity. The root cause of many data breaches, such as those of Experian, Equifax, or OPM, is the fact that if an attacker can compromise the password of one individual, he may gain access to the personal information of millions of others. Microsoft is a company that is painfully aware of this vulnerability, as it provides the identity infrastructure for over 90% of the Fortune 500 companies. This is why Microsoft spent years helping develop a decentralized identity standard built on top of Bitcoin. It is called the ION network. It was launched in March. It is live and operational and is now a candidate web standard. By replacing usernames and passwords with decentralized identifiers, the ION network will allow individuals to control their own identities rather than trust data brokers that can be compromised at root. This means that an attacker would no longer be able to compromise just one credential in order to gain access to everyone else's, but would instead have to hack each individual, a massive improvement to cybersecurity. Other benefits of decentralized identifiers include the ability to verify credentials, helping, for example, to combat disinformation. With ION, it will be trivially easy to verify that a photo that you're looking at was signed as authentic by its photographer, who in turn is credentialed by the Associated Press. Additionally, because you own your own identity and network of relationships to other identities, we will be able to see the emergence of an open, portable social graph that will allow for competition with incumbent social media networks. All of this requires Bitcoin to work. Like the early internet, the real live use cases of cryptocurrency networks today, but we can only see glimpses of the truly world-changing applications to come. The Clinton administration successfully pursued a deliberate policy of avoiding undue restrictions of the internet. To reap the benefits of cryptocurrency networks, I hope we have the wisdom to do the same today.
Professor Walsh, you mentioned in your written testimony that there are no definitively established definitions in the digital asset space. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. If we can have a law textbook like this one on virtual currency, we should be able to agree on common terms. So why is it so important that Congress and our regulators begin to use the same legal terms to talk about these issues?
Sure. So I've thought a lot about this, and it's been an important part of my research. I think that problems with terminology come from the fact that these systems are extremely fast moving, that there are products and activities created in the crypto financial system that kind of mirror the financial systems, but we don't know what to call them. Do you call them the same thing? How are they different, right? So there's a ton of confusion. And we have seen this already reflected in laws that have been passed in a bunch of state legislatures about cryptocurrencies, crypto systems, where misunderstandings and improper terminology is embedded into the definitions of these in the laws that are meant to support or enable innovation with cryptocurrencies. And I wish there was an easy solution to this problem. We've been talking about it for years, and the language, people keep adding new terms like minor extractable value and yield farming and a whole bunch of things that everyone has to learn anew when they come into the system. So it's a persistent problem and can have important impacts.
Well, thank you, Professor. And I do think that that's a point where Congress can weigh in. So I'm looking forward to working on that through our Financial Innovation Caucus and perhaps bringing something forward definition-wise for us all to consider. Is it Brito or Brito? Well, it's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much. Can you give me some specific use cases on how virtual currency and the distributed ledger technology that underpins these assets has the potential to reduce the cost of financial transactions for everyone and to create a more efficient financial system?
Sure, thank you for the question. There are a number of use cases where some function that today is happening in the financial system that depends on a centralized intermediary could be done potentially more efficiently if the two parties who rely on that intermediary can connect one-on-one. And one example that simply comes to mind would be settlement and finality, right? So today, when you want to trade securities or other assets, you ultimately rely on a series of intermediaries that ultimately have one settlement intermediary where there's a book that is sort of updated by that one party. You can imagine a system that depends on one global ledger that anybody has access to and can swap. Senator Toomey mentioned property registries is a potential there. So today in the United States, we have title insurance. Why do we have title insurance? We have title insurance because the chain of title to a piece of property might have been corrupted somewhere along the way. With cryptographic distributed ledgers, the potential for that is greatly, greatly reduced. And so, for example, you might be able to eliminate the need for that kind of insurance.
Well, that's helpful and informative, because I would note that the St. Louis Fed has noted that the US financial sector cost 8.2% of GDP in 2021, and that payments cost around 1% of GDP. Additionally, billions of dollars in capital is trapped every day because of antiquated means of payment that take days or even weeks to settle. For a Fortune 500 company that regularly sends international wire transfers, this is costly, and it's a very big deal, and it's something that we also might be able to take advantage of by some of these new distributed ledger technologies. Mr. Brito, we hear a lot, both true and false, about how our existing financial system benefits some groups more than others. Isn't the transparency and openness of open source finance a huge benefit that can ensure a level playing field, promote financial inclusion, and create trust in our financial system?
So I fear overpromising when it comes to saying that something like Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies like it will guarantee financial inclusion for everybody. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there. But what I can say is that because these systems are broadly transparent, you can see where the power centers may be, and you can go and address them, and you can see what the transactions are. And that is a great improvement. And to the extent that you can have parties interacting with each other and doing so transparently, that would reduce the need for trust, as you said.
Well, and one of the points you raised also sort of segues into my next question, and that's about virtual currencies and money laundering. There's a myth that virtual currency is anonymous, but aren't most virtual currency transactions recorded on a publicly available ledger that cannot be easily altered? It seems to me any criminal would avoid creating evidence like that.
Yes, the vast majority of transactions using cryptocurrency are recorded transparently on an open ledger, and these are available to law enforcement. And indeed, talking to law enforcement, they tell us how useful that evidence is. So why do criminals continue to use these networks? Well, because it's Bitcoin and things like it are good for payments, are good for censorship-resistant payments, and so they abuse these networks. But you're right, they create a trail that, with the help of on-ramps and off-ramps that are regulated and compliant, can help law enforcement find and prosecute these criminals.
China is taking a very close look at this whole operation, as indicated by their dispersion of the miners in China. What's their goal? Do they want to set up an alternate system? Do they want to be able to influence this system so that at a critical moment they can cause disruption?
So I wish I could tell you what China's goal is.
I wish I could tell you also.
I think that there is speculation that China and other nations feel threatened by cryptocurrencies, right? Because they are alternative, non-sovereign monetary systems and financial systems, and are not easily controllable by governments or regulated by governments. I mean, over the past 10 years, that's been the case. I think that China also is looking into very strongly issuing a central bank digital currency right now, and may feel that the threat from cryptocurrencies is more than they want to deal with, and certainly not that they want to support as much as they were within their own borders.
One of the other aspects, of course, and I think everyone's alluded to it, is one of the mainstays of our economic policy is macroeconomic policy. The Federal Reserve's control in the United States and the European Union system of the value of currency. And that could be compromised by either intentionally or unintentionally by cryptocurrencies. Is that accurate?
So, I mean, one of the original motivations of cryptocurrencies was creating an alternate financial system, an alternate monetary system. And that was due to a lack of faith really in existing monetary systems and a feeling that governments were not very responsible stewards of the money that they issued. I think there is a fundamental tension between the existence of cryptocurrencies and sovereign currencies. We're seeing that play out in very strange ways right now. I think we're in the midst of kind of a revolution on and significant change on what money is and who gets to make it. Right. We're seeing that with events like El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. Right. We're seeing this with the race of central bank digital countries to consider whether they should issue central bank digital currencies, I think in part to compete with cryptocurrencies. And I think that given what we've seen over the past few years with the loss of faith in institutions, which is like literally across the board, right, that cryptocurrencies are seen as kind of like a safety valve for collapse of important systems.